So today we are going to be doing a light here on the wall. That's right, we're not going to be drilling, so I'll show you that in just a moment. But we're going to actually redo some chairs that I found from the thrift store, and it's going to look fantastic. It's so hot out here today, I'm like sweating my butt off. But guess what? Fall is coming soon, and I want to be able to have this space be a place where I can actually just sit out, enjoy some of the fall without having to go to the backyard, and just kind of see what's going on in the front. So today in this video, we are actually going to hang some lights here on the wall, on the brick, and I'll show you how to do that. And we're going to be refinishing some cute little $20 chairs that I found from Community Forklift. It's this local place here in Maryland. Fantastic. If you live in this area, you got to go. All right, so we're going to be transforming this into a fall themed porch. Let's jump into this video right now. If you've done any outdoor projects recently, you will know that fall cannot come fast enough. I tell you, I am looking forward to the cool temperatures. So this is a 24-foot rope light. I got it from the home improvement store. You can find them in various lengths, but I was a little stumped on how I was going to spell out the word home. So I found myself practicing on the brick, trying to figure it out. So it might be helpful when you're doing a project like this, write it on a slip of paper and just tape it up next to you so that you can reference it. You want to make sure that the word you're doing is not too long for the amount of rope light that you have, and that it's not too short. The rope light is not too short so that you don't run out. This was actually perfect, and it took a little bit of playing around to make sure that it's going to work. I'm using a lot of duct tape, and that is the best way to get this to stick to the wall. And make sure that it looks good before you are ready to attach it. So when I had all of the tape onto the word, thankfully it didn't fall down, it was time to use the Sugru. This is a moldable glue that I've used before in projects, and the one that really stands out is the pink vanity that I did where the trim was broken. I could not find a matching trim, but I used this moldable glue to create a faux trim, and it dried in 24 hours, and I painted it, blended in, it just looked fantastic. So they reached out and said, can you do something outdoors with this? And I thought, it attaches to brick, it attaches to glass, it attaches to plastic. Yes, let's give it a try. And it does come in 10 different colors. Now, I have actually painted over Sugru before, so you can find that link down below to that project with the vanity, so you can see how I used it for that project as well. The tape is what's going to hold it in place so that while it dries in 24 hours, it will not come loose from where you've attached it to the brick. So what you'll do is just put it in sort of a hook shape and then press it into the brick, and it's not going to leave any lasting damage to the brick. It's not going to discolor it. You will not have to use any drill or any screws. I mean, it's super easy, and if you want to do this during the holidays, this is a great way to add lights to your brick without having to get, power tools and destroy your brick. Now, here's the thing. Make sure that you've got enough Sugru so that each point on your rope light can be secured properly. So I was able to get about 3 or 4 hooks from each packet of Sugru. So keep that in mind when planning the word that you're doing for your brick wall. So while that was drying, it was going to need 24 hours. This was the perfect time to pull out the hedge clippers and clean up this hedge. Now, I love singing outside when I'm using power tools, and I love Sade too. No ordinary love. So once I cleaned that up, then it was time to get started on these IKEA chairs. So I had stopped at a salvage shop and picked up these 2 chairs. I didn't know they were IKEA, and I paid $20 each for them, which is way too expensive because brand new, these would have cost probably $20 each. They were the perfect size for what I needed for the porch, and I figured this is going to be a good project. Let's just go ahead and do it. Also, here's a tip. Put all of your screws in a baggie. I don't know about you, but I am notorious for losing screws if I do not put them in a baggie. So I removed all of the pieces of wood and went to the home improvement store and bought some cedar. The cedar was a little thicker than these boards, and I thought that would be a problem, but in the end, it wasn't a problem. I'm using a jigsaw to cut these boards and a little bit of tape to prevent tear out. With tear out, sometimes what happens is that you will get some splinters on the end of your board as you're cutting, and that doesn't look good. So definitely use some tape. And if you're new to using tools, definitely check out my tutorial on how to use a jigsaw to help you get started. I also decided to use a palm router in order to chamfer the edges of the wood. This is when you're cutting it down to about a 45-degree angle, just taking the edge off of that piece of wood so that it's not quite so sharp and it looks a little bit more finished. And if you have a router table, great. Most people don't have router tables, and I think this is an amazing tool to use. Now, the one on the left was not chamfered with the router, and the one on the right was, and you can see it just looks so much more finished. Well, I probably should have used the router to chamfer the edges after I sanded, but because I'd never chamfered edges before, this was kind of new, and I didn't realize I should have done one before the other. So I used a 150 grit sandpaper and then followed with a 220 grit sandpaper by hand, and I was left with 14 amazing pieces. But first I decided to make something called glue size, and this is when you take some wood glue and mix it with a little bit of water and apply it to the ends of boards so that when you apply stain, those parts don't completely suck up the stain. They're like straws, and so this is where you get your really dark color. And I was going to give that a test try to see if it would help. In the meantime, while that was drying, I wiped the chairs down, gave it a nice coat of black spray paint, and then it was time to move on to the stain. So I had two choices. Was it hickory or Jacobean? Well, first of all, let me say, I always want to say Jacobean when I look at the can, but it's Jacobean. And I asked my family, which colors do you prefer? 3 out of 4 said Jacobean. So this is the color that we wound up with. It is a darker wood, but they liked it. So this is what I went with. And I did maybe like 1 coat. I don't think I even did 2 coats. And then I let that dry. So while that was drying, it was time to check on the Sugru. You see I'm doing a fingernail test here, and it was dry. I just wanted to make sure when removing this duct tape, I didn't pull the entire thing off the wall. But this thing was on there pretty tight. It wasn't really coming off. And so I was super excited that I was able to take this vision in my mind and actually make it come to fruition. I added 2 coats of a clear top coat, and then it was time to do a little bit of pressure washing because it hadn't been done in, gosh, probably about a year, and it just needed to be clean. So I did that, and then I got this brilliant idea that I was going to use this new product to paint an outdoor pillow. Well, it was horrible, and then I tried to use chalk paint to cover it up, and that looked horrible. And I wanted to include this so that you know mistakes do happen, and yes, behind the scenes, there's a lot going on. Anyway, I put the pillow aside, added some spray paint, some primer to a planter that I was going to do, planted some purple mums out front because you can't have a fall decor without mums, and then gave this a nice coat of like a bright red spray paint because I wanted a pop of color on the front porch. And when the cedar boards were dry, I reattached them, and then it was time to put everything together. So let me remind you of what my front porch looked like before. It looked okay, but now it just looks homey. And the thing that I learned from this project is that it doesn't take a lot to really dress up your home. It could be just a simple set of chairs, a rope light hanging from your brick. I mean, any little thing that you do that makes it feel more fresh and more homey is a win in my book. And it doesn't cost a lot of money. I think overall I probably spent maybe about $15, $20 on the wood for the cedar chairs. And remember, the chairs were $20 each, so that was $40 plus, let's say $15, $55. I already had the wood stain, and Sugru supplied the packs of Sugru, and I think I used probably about 10 packs of Sugru. And if you want to learn more about Sugru, you can click down below and find out where you can purchase this so that you can do a variety of projects and really not be limited with not being able to hang things from your brick. Now you've got this nice little conversational area. So if you enjoyed this project, follow me, definitely subscribe, leave a comment, and find me at thriftdiving.com. I'll see you next project.